I'm Alex Newman, a correspondent with the New American Magazine, and this is our final part in our series on the deep state. And what we're going to do is what all good criminal investigators do, right? I'm sure you've heard the expression, follow the money. Well, we're going to follow the money. We're going to see where the money trail leads for this deep state. Because we've talked about, the deep state bureaucracies, the intelligence agencies, the semi-secret organizations like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilaterals and the Bilderbergers, and the secret organizations, right, the Bohemian Grovers and the Skull and Bones men. So now we're going to look at the money. Right? The money is always the key to understanding stuff. So to start with, everybody who's talked about the deep state so far, people like Mike Lofgren, one of the first to develop this concept, have pointed out how crucial Wall Street is to the operations of the deep state. And it is, right? But to see just Wall Street, I think, is to miss the point. So, the Wall Street megabanks, they're very important parts of the deep state. And the leaders of the Wall Street megabanks, it's the same people that you'll find involved in the CFR and in the secret societies and in the Bilderberg and all the rest of it. But I think more important to understanding what's going on is to understand how they've manipulated the financial system and the economic system to make themselves mountains of money at public expense without actually doing what traditionally we associate with making money, which is providing a good or a service to people at at a higher quality, a lower price, a better variety, or whatever, things that we think of honest ways of making money. So the first thing to understand about the business world, about these mega banks, is that despite the appearance of this free market system where there's all these competing companies and so on, in reality, it doesn't really work like that, right? There was a really interesting Swiss study that came out in the journal PLOS1 in 2011, where they kind of tried to track the ownership and the control of the mega corporations that really kind of run the global economy, right? And they did. And what they found was incredible. What they found was there's this tiny little interlocking network of institutions controlled by this tiny little group of people that really control everything else in the economy. You get the appearance of this huge diversity of corporations that are all engaged in different things, some of which are competitors and so on, when the reality is they form this kind of bow tie structure, as the researchers put it, where you have this tiny little centralized control mechanism with interlocking boards and interlocking people on these boards and interlocking financial institutions. So this is unfortunately how our economy works today, and the central banks have been a crucial mechanism to create the kind of economic structure that we have today, where you have all these companies and all these economic actors that seem to be different, controlled by this tiny clique of people. So the central banking system, we've done a lot of videos on this. I don't have time to go through the whole thing, but take America, for example. We have the Federal Reserve. It is a private corporation. In fact, they tell you it's a private corporation, right? The Bloomberg tried to sue the New York Federal Reserve Bank to find out about all their secret bailouts, right? They bailed out their cronies and the mega banks to the tune of about 23.7 trillion with a T dollars, according to the Special Inspector General for the Troubled Asset Relief Program, the SIGTARP as he was called. So that's more than the entire U.S. economy. So this privately controlled, privately owned central banking system dominates the economy of the United States and has the ability to cause a depression or causes prosperity, and they have the ability to centralize control of economic resources through this scam that they've created called a central bank in this country. So unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to go through the mechanics of a central bank, but I encourage you to study it. It works the same now in almost every country in the world. And all these central banks come together at the Bank for International Settlements, and they coordinate policy and they decide what they're going to do, and then they work through things like the IMF and the World Bank to basically continue pumping wealth from the people of the world to themselves, to continue usurping control and self-government from the people of the world to themselves, to their own institutions, and that's where we are today. So who are some of the people involved in this? Well, we have, on the surface of things, we have the people that we always hear about, right? George Soros, for example, he's got $20 billion, supposedly, dumped $18 billion of it into his Open Society foundations not too long ago. And he uses this to finance, revolution and social change and Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street and Catholics for abortion, Catholics for choice, they call it. He uses it to to train pastors in the country of Georgia to love the European Union and to promote it to their congregations. I mean, any evil you can think of that's going on around the world, if you look hard enough, you'll probably find George Soros funding for it. Same thing with the Rockefeller dynasty, right? Not everybody in the Rockefeller dynasty is involved, but people like the late David Rockefeller, who bragged about being a conspirator, working against the best interests of his own country with a secret cabal to build a one-world political and economic system. You know, he has been one of the money men, right? He was the chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, one of the steering committee people in the Bilderberg, right? Honorary chair at the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, all of it. And so what they do is they make their money through these corrupt schemes, you know, with the central banks and with the mega corporations. So they basically scam humanity out of their money. And then they stash it all into these private foundations, right? Tax-exempt foundations. So they love high taxes, right? They're always in favor of more and more and higher taxes for you. And then they hide all the money that they looted from humanity in these tax-exempt foundations. And we know, you know, from the investigations that have been done, the Reese Committee did some incredible investigations back in the early 1950s about these tax-exempt foundations. And Norman Dodd, the lead staffer for this committee, talked to the president of the Ford Foundation at the time, and he said Norman Dodd was told by the head of the Ford Foundation that their goal was to so alter life in the United States that it could be comfortably merged with the Soviet Union. And that really is the ultimate goal, right? This global system with them in charge and us, if we're still alive, not in charge, right? And really, when you boil it down, that's what they're trying to do. And if you read through the Reese Committee reports, it's incredible. You know, some of the findings that they found, that these foundations were actually financing subversion, they were financing revolution, they were trying to change the values of the American people so that we could be comfortably merged with, you know, the horrifying communist terror state ruling the Soviet Union. So that's a scary thought. And unfortunately, they're closer today than ever before. There are also other money people that really don't get as much attention as they deserve. The Rothschild dynasty comes to mind, right? I mean, this dynasty, their wealth has been estimated into the trillions of dollars, and yet you never hear about them. People like George Soros, you know, we're all allowed to hate George Soros, right? They'll put him on Fox News or whatever and say, look, there's the guy you can hate. What they don't tell you is that George Soros was actually a protege of the Rothschild dynasty, right? He got his start with the Rothschild dynasty. They helped fund him, and you know, Soros has already been convicted of insider trading, we know. And you know, probably a lot of this has to do with insider trading. They know what the central banks are going to do before they do it. They know what the big companies are going to announce before they announce it. And so they can make billions of dollars on these market swings and leave all of us holding the bag. So following the money is crucial. If you want to understand the deep state behind the deep state, you need to follow the money. So check out the links below. I think you'll really get some insight into this. Thank you for watching, and subscribe to the New American Magazine.